Today,
Well,
we're
I
joined
think
by an Emmy nominated host and interviewer who has covered a multitude of topics from social media, culture, and wellness. And now she's taken on the task of introducing the public to Web3 by talking to key figures in the space. Please welcome Shira Lazar to the show, folks. Hey, Shira, how are
Hi.
you?
Thanks. I'm great. It's a Monday, feeling motivated, ready to get going.
I am feeling motivated too here on the East Coast, so we appreciate your time. So we had so much we wanted to ask you, but first, one of the things that you do on your Instagram is you just discuss the top 5 NFT stories of the week. So what are some of the most interesting NFT stories that you've seen recently?
Oh my God, how high and low everything is. The Bored Ape Yacht Club coming out with their own like land and metaverse with the other like the other world, and also the fact that Moonbirds came about out of nowhere and then hit like 25 to 30 Ethereum. I won that in a raffle. The fact that, now the whole industry is down, and what do you do about that? I think that's a lot of what people are trying to figure out right now, and what to invest in. But I think this is also a good time to now come in low when these projects are at a low, right? Ethereum is at a low. And so if you wanted to get into the space, but it was too expensive, now is the time.
Yeah, sure. You make a great point, especially for people that are one doing their due diligence, their own research. Because obviously, I
Yeah.
show one of our key phrases that we don't tell people exactly the advice to do, but we do tell them that this is an interesting space to check out and to please do their research and look if some projects are interesting. And I think from your standpoint, as someone that's I watched a little bit of your Instagram, you're pretty open and honest on it. And I think one of the things is as speaking from a black person, there is something that needs to be done to change kind of the outlook of the space. But what do you think we need to do to change and encourage more women and people of color to enter Web3? Because I think it's important. But what do you think we need to do specifically?
I mean, we all know representation matters. The more we
Yeah.
see ourselves in different spaces, the better. The more we feel like this is a safe space for us, we feel like it's possible for us. So I think that that means being aware of the people you have in your community, right? Like if you're looking at your community, who's buying in, if everyone's the same, there's a bit of an issue probably. And typically that's the issue, is also the team creating it is probably not diverse. So you need to make sure your teams are diverse and are inclusive. And then I would say also another step, who has equity? You could be
Mhm.
hiring a lot of people that have diverse backgrounds, but if no one has a seat at the table who are actually getting equity, who are representing different communities, then that's an issue as well. So I think you have to be looking at it across the board.
No, sure. That the equity portion is so important. That's something that I think is literally one of the key components that people skip over. Like you said, someone get a flashy title, position, but getting equity really, really matters, and that's something that we have to be make more inclusive. And so, speaking of that, like, what made you jump into Web3? You have a vast background of doing amazing things, but what made you go and pivot into like working with an NFT in the Web3 space, Shira?
Totally. Well, I came up, I would say, on the edge of Web 1, really Web 2, creating a company called What's Trending, where we cover social media, culture, and digital trends. So it's nothing new for me to come into spaces where I see emerging movements in media and tech and jump in as a curator and community organizer. And so I did it for the YouTube space with the influencer world, in creating What's Trending and editorializing the space. And that was a very exciting time, right? And then I got definitely a bit burnt out and things were getting a bit boring. And then that's when I went on my own personal growth journey and everything. But as I saw Web3 emerge, what I saw is a lot of my Web2 folks, the leaders in the space, moving into this world. And so, you start paying attention when you see folks like a Gary Vaynerchuk go in, perhaps a Randy Zuckerberg, Mark Cuban is starting to talk about it. You start paying attention. I mean, Alexis Ohanian, who started Reddit.
Mm.
And so that perked my interest. And then I was starting to get asked, without even trying, by a bunch of projects to support their projects in the space, whether it be to host Twitter Spaces. My
Mm.
wellness company, Peace Inside Live, got hired to produce wellness experiences inside a Discord chat for an NFT project. And so when you
Mm.
start seeing some, I would say noise and energy bubbling up, you need to pay attention. And so that's
Yeah.
what I did. And then I realized, wow, there is a wealth of opportunity right now. And one, I get to be a creator in the space. I get to use my expertise and how I add value, which is hosting shows and interviewing people and bringing communities together virtually and offline. And then also what I didn't do in the Web2 space, because I was too young, and also as a woman, I didn't see enough of this in those spaces, is saying
Mm,
like, I want to have a piece of the pie, right? I
mm.
can now join in and use my expertise that I built in, my credibility in the Web2 space, and be a consultant, be an advisor, and actually start being part of the infrastructure of these emerging spaces from the beginning.
That's such an important point. I love the fact that in Web3 you said you wanted to use your expertise and skills to now have a piece of the pie. You mentioned a lot of cool celebrity names just now. We've seen a lot in the past year. A lot of celebrities get into crypto and NFTs. Do you
Yeah.
think having celebrities involved will help or hurt the cause?
I think that it always helps to have big names and big platforms bring credibility to the space, but then I also think that they need to, with that, hold themselves accountable and make sure they're doing the right research to make sure they're aligning with projects that matter and that aren't pump and dumps and schemes. I mean, we saw that with Mike Tyson, we saw that with Kim Kardashian. The more that celebrities do those things, yeah, there's going to be a lack of respect and a lack of trust. But the more people who have teams do the right things, the more we realize, just like social media, this is just a new space. And the more names that are part of it, definitely the more credibility will happen. But I think it's key that when they enter the space, they also bring in those who have been really part of the space in building the community. And so, like, that mixture between the authentic individuals who really care, have been around, and those who have names coming together is where I think the power really lies. But they need to make sure to do their research, because there could be a lot of issues and definitely a lack of trust as the space grows.
That's such a good point. So speaking of doing your research, it is
Yeah.
name drop time. Of all the
Oh
celebrities you've
God.
spoken with, who do you feel is the most knowledgeable in Web3? And then also give me who you feel could do a little bit more research or needs a little help in that area.
So I've seen a few great ones recently. Singer Miguel's actually getting to the space with
Mm,
some stuff soon to be announced. Baron
mm,
Davis has done really cool stuff. He's entering the space not just supporting projects, but actually building out a fund
yeah.
to support different companies in the space. And then there's women that I see doing really hot stuff, like Paris Hilton. She's living in the space. And then Reese Witherspoon and Eva Longoria also are really supporting projects and then looking at building businesses. They're smart. It's similar to what I saw like Ashton Kutcher when social media was coming up. There are going to be people that come in and that see that this is going to be big, and there is money, but there's also like the future and innovation to be had. And also for, Eva Longoria as a Latina, she's saying,
Mhm.
"Hey, I want to, bring in more of that community and represent." And then, of course,
Yeah.
Reese Witherspoon as a woman as well.
Two names you mentioned, Baron Davis, who I've been watching his moves and doing amazing things in this space, and also Reese Witherspoon. I know she's been doing amazing stuff with her own, company, her own studio, and obviously I think she sold a portion of that. So some interesting names, and it's going to be fun to watch and see what else they do in the space. But for you, we're gonna kind of continue watching what you do in the space. What's next for you, Shira, and where can we find you and stay tapped into what you're doing?
Well, I'll be at VCon with Gary Vaynerchuk and a ton of other people in Minneapolis this
Yep.
week. So I'll be hosting on a stage, hosting panels and moderating. I do Twitter Spaces weekly. If you want to learn more about the space, get some alpha in terms of the projects you should be checking out, just follow me on Twitter at Shira Lazar. I host Alpha Mondays on Mondays. Not today though, because I'm off going to dinner with Paris Hilton. It's such a name drop.
Oh,
I'm sorry,
say
I'm
hi to
not that
Paris for
person.
us.
I'm just playing. And then Wednesday, Women in Web3 Wednesday, where I feature women and non-binary individuals in the projects they're doing in the space. And then, yeah, and we're covering it for What's Trending too. We're starting to get into Web3 and really start covering the industry overall and where it hits like the consumer facing side and mainstream culture. Because that's what's exciting. Like, how do we bridge the gap and use content to educate and inform people about what's happening?
Exactly. I love that portion. Educate and inform, and you've been doing an amazing job of that. So we will make sure to stay tuned in to what you're doing. And just thank you for joining us. I know you're very busy, so we appreciate your time on the show today.
Yeah, I appreciate you. Excited to see what you're up to and hope to be back.
Hey guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that notification bell. We'll see you tomorrow.